morning everyone, it's Carol at Oak House Journals. As always, thank you so much for joining me on my channel today. It's lovely to have you with me. I'm going to do my Collage Weekly Planner assignment for week 44. I've got my prompts here and I've got my background paper as always. So let me quickly take you through the prompts. The first one is something found in a grocery store. Well, I first of all lifted out this bag which I got from the grocery store fairly recently, and I thought that I could make use of part of this design on the front of it. But as I thought about the prompts a little bit more, I decided that this was a little bit too thin for what I wanted to do. So I've lifted out this, or rather I tore this. Now this is a piece of a brown paper bag that was used for putting vegetables in, and this one had potatoes in. Most of it was dirty down below, but it's a lot sturdier as you can see, and also it's got a slightly waxed shiny coating to one side. So I'm going to be using this, so I'm going to pop that to one side because I'm not going to use it, but I will be using that. Plaid, I've printed off these images here of some plaid, so I've got that for the second prompt. Paper that has a stain or is stained. Well, I thought I would actually stain this brown paper here and perhaps some more of the papers that are actually on my assignment piece today. So we'll see how I get on with that. A light source, I've printed off this image of a candle. The next prompt is a children's book or illustration. Well, I've listed out a couple of illustrations here by illustrators that I'm very fond of. I know which one I'm going to use, but I thought I'd explain why I've lifted the other ones out and also why I'm also discarding them. So the first one is by an illustrator called Charles Van Sandwyk, a Canadian illustrator. I've collected several of his books, love his work. And this one particularly I thought would be nice to have because it's an illustration from The Wind in the Willows, and that is a favourite children's book of mine. I thought that this one would work well because there is a light source here, but also because most of the action is going over to the right hand side. It's all located on the left hand side, but it's angled towards the right hand side. And I particularly like Ratty's tail here because of the curve in it, and I thought that that would tie in well with the curve that I've got on my candle there. So that was one that I particularly liked. The second one was again another illustration by Charles Van Sandwyk, and I thought that I could make use of my passion for fussy cutting, but I'm definitely discounting this one pretty quickly because it's going to be too neutral on my piece if you bear in mind the other colours that I've got going on. And this one, this is an illustration out of this book, The March Hare, and if I open the book up you can see that's the illustration there, and all I've done is printed it off on my printer and just reduced it down in size. And the reason I chose this one is because it's by Peter Weavers. He's the illustrator. Again, love his work, love the image, love that it's got frog on, love the colours, and I particularly like these reeds here. And then the final one is this one. Now I think, I'm not 100% certain, but I think this is another Peter Weavers illustration. And the reason I like this one, again, is because I've got a gap here. Everything is going on in the right-hand side or towards the right-hand side. And I've got this curve here, which again will work well with that. So which one am I choosing? I'm going with this one for the simple reason that these reeds won me over. And the colours, if I put it together with my candle, I've got the same yellowy orangey tones going on the image here towards this side as I have on this side. It doesn't tie in quite as well as the other two, which are sort of night themed, but I still thought this one worked quite well because I look on this image as Mr. Toad relaxing by the side of a stream here at the end of the day with the sun going down. So that's why I'm going with that one. And then finally, the last prompt was a written measurement. So I've just got a scrap. I wrote on it using my fountain pen to create a written measurement. So I've written 122 inches. The reason I've chosen this is because I think the colour of this paper will tie in quite nicely with the background here and also with my brown paper and plaid. So let's get started, and the first thing I'm going to do, as always, is do my fussy cutting. So I'm going to cut out this image and I will be back when that's done. So with the magic of YouTube, I have cut out my candles, so I'm going to have that on there like that. It just looks lovely just like that, actually. My piece of paper bag I thought I would have on here. I will tear it in a moment, and this probably maybe have that like that. And if I want to have this on here, I'm probably going to need to trim away the border. This just lined up so that I have my candle on the image but have these reeds sparking out from the flame, and that's what came to mind when I thought about doing that. And I'm just going to angle it so that I've got the toad's silk scarf and napkin I think he's got in his hand, or perhaps a handkerchief there. With this handle here, it looks like he's sat on it, and because I've cut away the inside of the handle and this scroll here, I can get some of the image coming through, so my candle almost blends into the background. I'm going to trim away the white border on here. Let me just bring in my plaid, and I was wondering whether I could get my plaid in down here, or perhaps down the side there. It's going to make it look very, very busy with the plaid, but there are orangey tones or mustardy tones in this that will pick up that. And maybe soften it down slightly with that. I'm not quite sure where that's going to go at the moment. Now I'm liking that, so I'm going to commit to that, and I'm going to put some glue behind it. So I'm not going to put any glue under this bottom piece as yet, but I am going to put a bit more on the handle part, so let's just do that, just so that I can secure it onto my image like that. But I'm just playing with things at the moment. I'm going to take away some of this brown in a moment, which means I can shift it across. I'm not adverse to that, I have to say. I probably would move it down a little bit, maybe trim it off, and see how that looks. It's too long at the bottom here, and I'm not quite sure where I'm going to get that in unless I put it up that side. So let's just tuck that in. I will again trim that away. Now I could have that tucked in there like that. The plan I had for this was to char the edge of it. I'm going to rip it. I'm liking how that looks now that I've torn away the edges. So what I thought I would do now is char the edge to stain it with soot. So I've got a tea light here, and I'm just going to move these to one side, and I'm going to set fire to my paper very, very carefully. So as soon as it catches, I'm going to blow it out so that I get some staining and marking. And now you can see why I wanted to have something that was a little bit more robust than the other piece that I was using, and I've managed to blow up my candle, so I need to light that again. Okay, so let's carry on doing this and try it again. Maybe do a little bit more on this edge here. So all I'm doing is allowing it to light, and then as soon as it lights, I'm blowing the flame out. So let me pop that flame out of the way so that it's safe. And then I'm going to bring this back in again. I'm going to go in and add a bit more of the charring to the bottom edge of this piece of paper here. So let me do that. I'm going to pop this back in here and see what this looks like. I like that configuration, although it looks very busy on this left-hand side. And now I need to get this in, so I'm going to just roughly tear it for the time being. think I will trim it on the guillotine down this edge. Okay, so I'm looking at the alternatives where I can put my handwritten measurement. I could pop it down the side here. That's not really doing anything for me at all. The whole thing would need to move across. I thought about putting it on the top, maybe ripping it down closer, and I don't think that would work either. And it takes away the sunset. Doesn't really feel like it should live there. That's quite discreet, having it down that side. Let me just try moving it down a little bit so that it's like that. And actually that's working quite well for me, so I'm going to go with that. So let's get some glue along this edge. This was my piece of plaid tucked in here. There's a sort of grey streak across the top of my image there, and if I have it placed as I've got it here against the plaid, then it's almost against a grey piece there, but I'm not liking it down at the bottom. So what I thought I could have a look at is if I put a piece of this underneath and see what that looks like. I'm just trying to mix and match it at the bottom. Do you know, I'm really liking that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to levelling off that bottom piece. I'm going to put this piece in behind and maybe just trim it so that it comes out there. What does that look like if I tuck this in as well? I've just tucked another piece behind here, and I like that I've managed to extend this little piece of tartan up to level with the top of that. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to fold this piece back on the back here and just rip it away. And then I'm going to just use a little bit of glue along the back here and put this piece in place. Something like that. And as I say, try and just marry it up with the top of this. Now I've gone a little bit higher there. So I'm just going to actually leave it as it is. And then if I pop it back on here like that, I think it breaks up that bottom corner a bit. I'm liking that this is a straight edge on here. I wanted that sticking out more off this brown paper, but I don't think I can get that. So I'm just going to pull it in and make this edge work for me, curving round the bottom of my candlestick holder. Before I actually glue this down, I want to do my staining on the brown paper, and for that I'm going to bring in my glass mat and bring back in my tea light, because I'm going to stain this with wax. Okay, so I'm just going to pour a little bit of wax from my tea light onto my brown paper, and it doesn't want to pour. So let's just see if I can get some drips on here. I just wanted some tiny little drips, but I've ended up with a few big ones, but not to worry. Maybe if I use one of my matchsticks and just pick up some oil, or some wax rather, from here. Maybe encourage it to pour a little bit. No, it really doesn't want to pour. Ooh, that's a lot. Never mind. I'm going to put some on my candle as well. And some more drips up here. Let's melt a little bit more wax. So I'm going to leave it there for the time being, let that cool down. The wax has had a minute or two to dry, not so much this piece here. So I'm just going to just try and flick it off my piece, and hopefully it will have stained the paper underneath. And yeah, I have got some staining, so I'm pleased about that. And let's just peel these pieces off like that. A little bit there, and there, and there, a little bit on there. So I've got these pieces down here. Now that doesn't want to come off this image, which is going to be a bit of a nuisance. So let me just have a look at that, because I'm wondering if it's going to peel away my image, in which case I'm going to have to leave the wax. And yep, it has peeled away some of my image. So I'm going to leave the wax on this part of the candle. Let's see if this one is going to do the same. And yeah, it is. Oh, that's a bit of a shame. Never mind, I can go with that. Might as well peel this bit off as well. And that's a big bit, so I'm going to glue that back into place, I think, because that is a big blob there that's come off. So let's glue that back into place like that. And these bits I could cover over with some distress ink if I wanted to, but no, I'm going to leave them as they are, and it is what it is. So there we go, everybody. That's my finished piece. All I need to do now is to glue it to the background. So let me bring in my glue book, flick it over and put some glue on the back. And there we go, everybody. That's my finish collage for this week, which was week 44. And quickly, as always, going through the prompts. Something found in a grocery store. Well, I've got my bit of a brown paper bag that had some potatoes in. Plaid, I've got my piece of plaid here, which is variously pieced together. Paper that has a stain or is stained. Well, I actually did some staining by using the wax on this brown paper at the back, and I've also stained it with the charring or the soot from burning round the edge. A light source, well, that's my candle here. A children's book or illustration, well, this is my Peter Weaver illustration. And finally, the bonus, a written measurement. Well, you saw me handwrite a measurement and it's tucked down the side there. So there we go, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. As always, I'll post some photographs at the end so you can have a closer look of this. And until next week, take care. Bye-bye now.